What to do? What's up, y'all? It's your boy Elijah James from Elijah James TV, and I'm here to bring y'all another UFC breakdown. Today, we'll be going over UFC Noche that is happening this Saturday in San Antonio, Texas. And we got a banger of a main event, y'all. We got Diego Lopez taking on Gene Silva. I'm really excited for that main event, y'all. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like, if I'm being completely honest, like, let's slow down. I'm getting a little too excited. Let's slow down a little bit. This card is ass. Like, this card is kinda ass. I'm not even gonna front with you, but it makes up for it for a really good main event. So we gonna see how this thing pan out. Like I said, I'm really excited for this matchup, and this main event, I've been flip-flopping, so I'm just gonna tell y'all straight up. Like, with the main event, y'all can take my advice, take some of the things that I did my research on. You could not, but I'm not gonna front. I'm gonna give y'all a disclaimer right now. It is a really 50-50 fight, but I think I do got a winner. I've been sitting on it for a minute, but I'll get to it more once we get to it. So before we get started, make sure that y'all leave a like on this video. Make sure y'all comment, make sure y'all share this. Like I said, we keep building up this page. I appreciate all y'all that support me. Let's go ahead and get to this card. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, like, I'm a little slow. I am a tad bit slow. So I thought the Hernandez-Ferreira fight was in the main card, but it's actually the featured prelim of the night. But if I'm gonna be real, I'm gonna replace that fight with the main card fight of the night, because if I'm being real, I don't know who the fuck those dudes are. Not the Rob Font, David Martinez fight, the fight before that. I don't even know who the fuck those dudes are. I high-key didn't feel like doing research on them, if I'm being completely honest. But I did do research on that fight, so I'm gonna go start with that fight and work my way up. So let's go ahead and start with that fight. Diego Ferreira taking on Alexander Hernandez. It's a really interesting fight. I actually do like this fight. I think it's gonna be pretty exciting. We got Hernandez that's coming off of that knockout win against Chase Hooper a couple weeks ago. Like, I'm surprised that he turned around. Well, actually, I'll take that back. I'm not surprised he turned around that quick, because if you watch the fight, he took absolutely no damage. So I do like seeing that he's hungry and he's stepping in on this Noche card, and he's fighting in his home state. I don't know if he's from San Antonio, but I know he's from Texas, so I do like that from him. We got Diego also fighting. He's a UFC vet. He's been in the game for a minute. I think it's a real test for Hernandez to see if he really is that type of competition in the division, to see if he's moving up, because he do have some decent wins, do not get me wrong, but let's see him against some real comp. I'm interested to see. So I want to start with Hernandez, like I said, just coming off of that knockout win against Chase Hooper. When I look at Hernandez fight, one thing that I could say off of rip, like from the first 30 seconds of when you see him fight, this man is fast. He is fast on his feet. He has incredible footwork. The way that he was able to knock out Chase Hooper, before I get into that, Chase Hooper isn't some dynamic striker. We know Chase Hooper he's more of the grappler. You know, he wants to get you to the ground and everything. His striking did get better, but he's not a striker. We're not looking at Chase Hooper to be a striker. However, though, Alexander Hernandez's footwork against Chase Hooper, it looked way more superior. And keep in mind, I think Chase Hooper is 6 footish, almost 6 foot, 6'1", and Alexander Hernandez is 5'8", 5'9"-ish. So he really did have to use his footwork to get on the inside of Chase Hooper and find that chin. A lot of people said that Chase Hooper was winning that round originally, before he got knocked out at the end of the round, but I highly disagree. It looked like Alexander Hernandez was running around him. He was able to pick a shot, dart in, dart out whenever he was able to, and Chase Hooper just didn't look fast enough. Hernandez puts up a very high pace. Like I said, he's jumping around, he's moving side to side, he's trying to get in your face and, you know, find that perfect spot. One thing I will also say that he's very aggressive. He moves forward at all times. He's never backing up unless he's stung. We've seen that in the Cowboy fight. But most of the time, he's moving forward on the opponent. Another thing I'll say about Hernandez, he has really good dirty boxing. He had good dirty boxing against Cowboy Cerrone before he ultimately got put out by him. But he has some good clinch work. He's really strong up top. He's thicker in the frame.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
So he has really good dirty boxing. He can throw some elbows. He has good clinch work. And another thing I think that's pretty underrated about Hernandez's game, he has a good uppercut. Some of the fights that I've seen, looking at some of the tape, he has a really good uppercut. He'll catch you lacking. And like I said, he's fast. So if you throw in a fast uppercut, that could put anybody out. I don't care who you are. Them uppercuts hurt. Them uppercuts are nasty. So with Alexander Hernandez, he's in a weird place right now, because he has some notable wins with, like I said, Chase Hooper and then Dariush, where he got that knockout against Dariush. But I don't know. He's kind of in a weird spot. So this fight will really tell me if he's the real deal or if he's just a up and down fighter and he'll come and he'll go. Now looking to the side of Diego Ferreira, I think he's a pretty good fighter. He's a UFC vet. He's been doing this. He's faced a lot of competition. He has the miles on, he has the miles on his career to where he's pretty much seeing anything. Nothing is going to be new that Alexander Hernandez is going to bring to the cage. One thing I did like about Ferreira is that he's good at striking while moving backwards. And that's good for a fighter like Hernandez because, like I said, Hernandez likes to move forward and he's really aggressive. Ferreira knows how to, keep his distance and back up while still also throwing out something. And he's just not backing up waiting to get tagged. Like, he's throwing out something. If you're going to rush in, you're gonna get caught with something. He has some pretty fast hands. He also has some heavy kicks. So he throws out a heavy leg kick. And with his striking overall, he's very patient. That could be a good or a bad thing. But I think in this case, it could be a good thing because, like I said, Hernandez is moving forward. So especially in that first round, like the first 2 minutes of that round, he's gonna they call it downloading. He's gonna download that first 2 minutes to see how he could attack Hernandez if he's gonna keep moving forward and things like that. I've seen Ferreira on the ground a couple of times, and it looks like he has a capable ground game. I know he got taken down and was on bottom position a couple of times, but he knows how to strike from the bottom and he could look for the submission as well from the bottom. So I think his BJJ is pretty good. I don't necessarily think Alexander Hernandez is going to try to take him to the ground, but let's say the fight does go there. I think Ferreira will be fine going against Alexander Hernandez's BJJ. The most notable fight that I've seen from Diego Ferreira is the Rebecki fight. Rebecki, similar, not as fast, but he has a similar style to Hernandez to where he's charging forward and he's not backing up. He puts up a fast pace in the first 2 rounds. And Diego Ferreira was able to fend him off for the most part. It did look a little sketchy in some parts of the fight. He was getting caught a little bit, but he was able to weather the storm and able to, pretty much wait out Rebecki pretty much. He waited till he gassed out. He putting out that high pace, so he was able to tag him from the outside. Like I said, strike him from the back foot as he was charging forward. Pretty much waited till he gassed out, and he knocked his ass out in the 3rd round, at the end of the 3rd round. I think that's a pretty impressive win to have on your resume, especially with how the way Rebecki's been looking lately. I think that's a pretty impressive win. As I said, I think his BJJ is pretty good, but he can get taken down. I don't believe Hernandez will take him down, but that's still an option. I think this fight majority of the time is going to stay on the feet. So in these featherweight, lightweight divisions, I'm not sure what this fight is being fought at. I'm pretty sure it's at lightweight. But in these divisions, the older you get, the younger people come and get you. And Ferreira is at 40 years old. Hernandez is coming off of that impressive win off of Chase Hooper. He's fighting only 3 weeks after that win against Chase Hooper. I think the momentum was on the Hernandez side of things, and I think he's going to be faster than Ferreira. Like I said, Ferreira is good at fighting off that back foot, but I think with him being with Ferreira being the older man, Hernandez being the younger man, the faster fighter, I think Hernandez is going to get inside and catch Ferreira, but Ferreira's going to put up a good fight. I can see this fight going to decision on the side of Hernandez. Like I said, he's in his home state. He's going to be fighting with confidence. He's rolling in with momentum after UFC 319 in Chicago. And keep in mind, in that UFC fight in Chicago, he was a heavy underdog. I think he was the biggest underdog on the card, and he pulled out that win. So I think if he comes into this fight, now that he's the favorite, he got some momentum on his shoulders, I think he lives up to it and he gets him a win in Texas in front of his home crowd. So now moving up to the main card opener, we got Quang Bang Lee taking on Santiago Luna. This will be Santiago Luna's first UFC fight. This is his debut, and I think he's also stepping in on short notice as well, which is always a red flag. But let's start with him. He fought on the regional scene down in Mexico, and from looking at some of the fights, one thing I will tell you, this motherfucker is strong as shit. He is strong. Like, his wrestling is strong, his punches are strong, everything he does is strong. He moves forward. He has some strong takedowns. He's a good wrestler. He has a good chin as well. You know, with Mexican fighters, like, that's just a given. If you're Mexican, you got a chin. That just comes with it. I think you're just born with that. In this fight, he also is the bigger fighter, but however, he is only 21 years old. You're making a UFC debut and UFC, Noche UFC, one of the bigger cards of the year. So I don't know. It's a lot of question marks going with Luna. Like, he hasn't fought the best of competitions. The best of competition. I'm not gonna lie to you, but for me, you can tell when somebody's good and when somebody is just getting a win. And in my opinion, I think Luna is good. Like I said, very, 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 very strong and has some really good boxing, has good wrestling and so on and so forth. So now we go to Quang Bang Lee. I like his nickname a lot. I like saying the Quang Bang part. But he's been in the UFC. You know, he had a couple fights. He just got him a good submission win not too long ago. You know, his first UFC win. So, you know, now he's moving in the right direction. How the way that I explained his fighting style, he's a technical, rangy striker. He likes to measure the distance. He likes to pick apart from the outside. He's not just charging in. He could throw some good leg kicks as well to keep that distance at bay. He throws some fast straights. He throws some fast hooks as well. And he has a good ground game. However, he has a good ground game if he is on top. If he's the stronger fighter and he initiates the takedown, he's a good ground game fighter if he's on top. If he's on the bottom, I've seen a couple of fights where he was controlled for a little bit. And I actually think he got submitted on the regional scene. He's coming out of Minnesota, so there is that. If he keeps it on the feet, one thing I did notice, he likes that lead leg kick. He likes to keep that lead leg kick thrown out. So like I said, to manage that distance. That could be a good thing or a bad thing because, you know, if you're throwing kicks, you're more susceptible to get taken down. But I do like how the way he uses it, how the way he weaponizes it. He uses it for his distance management. However, with that lead leg kick, he does put a lot of weight on that lead leg. So he is susceptible to probably get chopped at the legs a little bit. But in this fight, I don't think Luna is necessarily the best leg kicker in the world. His hands is where the worry should be at for Quang Bang Lee. Like I said, he's a good striker, but one thing I will say, if he gets into a firefight and he starts trading shots with the other fighter, he is a little bit chinny. He can get caught. His head sometimes stays a little bit too on the straight line to where a fighter could catch him. He got caught a couple of times. He got knocked out by another Asian fighter. I'm not even gonna try to attempt to say his name, but he got knocked out. It's because while he was trading, he got caught. And if you want me to give my honest opinion, I think this is a setup fight for Luna. This is Noche UFC. You're in Texas. It's a Mexican favorite crowd. You're 21 years old. Quang Lee, you know, he's kind of like a journeyman. He's kind of like, yeah, he's kind of just another guy. He's just another guy that's in the division and the UFC doing his thing. And if, in my personal opinion, I think the UFC is setting up this fight to showcase Santiago Luna. Like I said, this motherfucker's strong, y'all. Strong hands, strong wrestling. Everything he do is just strong. If you look at him, he's built like a tank. But there is also that veteran factor of Quang Bang Lee of being in the UFC, fighting the highest of the high competition, versus Luna has kind of fought some cans in the regional scene. But like I said, you could just tell if somebody's got it, and I think Luna does got it. So if you want my prediction, I think Luna gets this fight done by knockout in the second round. If I could picture how the way I'm picturing in my head, I see Luna charging forward. They're gonna get into a firefight. Lee is gonna think that he could trade with him, and he's gonna get caught. I can see him either getting flatlined or just getting a TKO. I highly doubt it goes to a decision. I'm not gonna lie. However, it is that possibility that he can get Luna can get that vet lesson, and and Quang Bang Lee could take it on the scorecards. But I highly doubt it. I think Luna gets it by TKO or KO. All right, moving up on the card, next fight, we got Kelvin Fatboy Gastelum taking on Dustin Stostosis. I'm going to call him Dustin. I'm not even going to try to hurt myself trying to say his last name. We'll call him Dustin. But let's start with Dustin. He's a striker. He got some power in his hands. He has a nasty clinch game. He can get the grappling going. If I'm going to be completely honest, he just seemed like another guy. He's just one of those dudes that's just in the UFC. Like, he'll win some, he'll lose some. He's just kind of there. No disrespect to him. I'm not even trying to be disrespectful, but he's a striker. He keeps his hands up. He's plodding forward a lot of the times. He does have some power in his hands. He does have knockout ability when he took out MAB Barriou. So, like, you know, the power is there. He has some decent wins, but he is a little chinny. He's a little chinny. I'm not gonna lie. Like, he gets knocked out he gets knocked out from time to time. And when he goes up in competition, he does tend to lose. I'm not gonna lie. And I think this is a step up for him with the competition. He is gonna be the bigger fighter, standing at, 6 foot to Kelvin Gastelum's 5'9". So he may be able to keep Gastelum at range. But I don't think that's his fighting style. I think he's I wouldn't say he's necessarily aggressive, but he wants to land a power punch. He can go to the ground if he wants to, but I think he wants to, stay on the feet and, finds his strikes that way. But like I said, he's a jag, and I play football. So what that means is he's just another guy. I think he's just another guy in the UFC. I don't really think he's that best of the fighters. Now moving on to Kelvin Gastelum, Mr. Fat Boy himself. Man, with Kelvin Gastelum, y'all, we gotta let that Adesanya performance go. We gotta let that go. He also put up a good fight against Chris Curtis as well. That version is gone, y'all. Like we need to let that go. He's getting a little bit older. His diet hasn't been looking the best. Like I think Kelvin Gastelum should honestly be like, he should be like a lightweight, a welterweight. He should be between a lightweight and a welterweight, but I don't think he's taking his diet serious. I don't think he's necessarily taking his fight thing serious. So they got him up at middleweight, but he's a 5'9" middleweight. He's going to be the smaller fighter in this. However, even though I do think he is a little bit washed, there are some things that hasn't went away when it comes to Gastelum. And one thing I will say is that he's still a D1 wrestler. He has prime wrestling. He's a very good wrestler. He still does have fast hands. He has a nice 1-2 when he's going into the pocket. He has good footwork, so he can move around and, you know, things like that. I think this is a fight where Kelvin Gastelum is gonna kind of beat up on a jag, on just another guy. These are the winnable fights for Kelvin Gastelum. I'm not gonna say it's the most confident because we just don't know what type of Kelvin Gastelum we're gonna get. But I think this is gonna be a good showcase for Kelvin Gastelum. I don't see him getting knocked out in any way, shape, or form. He got that big blockhead. And he's been chinned a couple times. He got hit like hell against Chris Curtis. I just recently watched that fight. And somehow he still didn't go down. So I don't really necessarily see Gastelum getting knocked out. If he does, that'll be a surprise to me. More power to Dustin. But I just don't see that happening. The most recent fight from Gastelum I seen is when he took on Joe Pyfer a couple months ago. And in the first 2 rounds, he did not look good. He did not look good at all. Joe Pyfer looked like he was on another level. But I will give him credit. He did look good in that 3rd round. He definitely won that 3rd round against Pyfer. But Pyfer's known to slow down at the end of fights in the 3rd or the 5th round. But he took advantage of that, and I think that's that UFC veteran experience coming into play, keeping his gas tank intact and being able to attack when the openings are there. So for my prediction, I think Kelvin Gastelum takes this one on the cards. I think he wins this one by decision. Not necessarily. Well, let me take that back. I think this is probably one of my more confident picks on this main card compared to the rest of the fights. Like I said, man, the man Kelvin Gastelum, he's just a little washed up. I don't really know if his mind is in the fighting game anymore. He's been in the UFC. He's fought the who's in the welterweight and the middleweight division. So I think he's on the back end of his career, but these are one of the fights where I can confidently say I'm pretty sure Kelvin Gastelum is going to win this fight. This is one of the more winnable fights against the Jag. So as I said earlier in the video, I didn't really look at the featured fight of the night because the UFC's website was a little weird, so I didn't really catch the order of what the fight was going on. But in that fight is Rafa Garcia taking on Jared Gordon. I'm not gonna lie to y'all, I'm kind of a casual. Like, I just got into the UFC within the past like 2 years, so there is some names I'm still learning. But if I'm gonna be real, like, I kind of don't give a fuck about this fight. Call me a casual, call me a bum, call me a bitch ass, whatever. I kind of don't care. I'm not gonna lie, like, I was more focused on some of the other more interesting fights than this fight of the night. I hope it's gonna be a good fight. I'm definitely gonna be watching. Hopefully I can learn something about these two. But I don't feel like doing research on it, y'all. I'm not even gonna front. So with that being said, let's move up to the co-main event between Rob Font and David Martinez. Now, this is a banger fight. I can't wait to see this fight. This is a really good fight. Let's start on the side of Rob Font. Rob Font, he's a UFC vet, tried and true, fought some of the best in the game. He's fought Aldo, he's fought Cody Garbrandt, he's fought some of the higher competition in that class, in that weight class. He was supposed to fight Mr. Chiwiwis himself, Raul Rosas Jr. He had to pull out due to injury, so hopefully we'll see him at some point. But now he has David Martinez, who actually stepped up. I forgot who he was supposed to fight on this card, but David Martinez actually stepped up to take this fight. So I do kind of like that from the Martinez side, but we're not on Martinez yet. But talking more about Rob Font's style, he has a nasty jab, one of the nastiest jabs in the UFC. He's even been it's been patented as the Rob Font jab. That's how good the jab is. He was busting up Cody Garbrandt with that jab in the fight that I seen from him from a couple years ago. He keeps that jab, he throws it out. He has a long reach as well, so that's why that jab is so effective in this weight class. He has a heavy 1-2 that he could throw out there, setting it up with that jab, throwing that jab out there first, using that reach. He has some good combos that he could throw out there as well. Like I said, with that long reach, he has a nasty overhand. He throws a nasty overhand that could catch somebody. And I'm not talking about like an overhand like where his arm is fully extended and he's throwing that thing like that. So he has a nasty overhand that Martinez probably needs to look out for. He also has some nasty elbows in the clinch. I like his clinch game as well. If he can get Martinez onto the cage, he has a pretty good clinch game. He could throw some punches. He has a nasty elbow also in the clinch, and he uses it well. And like I said, I keep talking about the man's reach, but he also throws a nasty uppercut. I forgot what fight it was. I'm gonna try to put the picture up right here as I'm talking, but he threw this uppercut and his arm was fully extended, like on some Hadouken. Like he throws a nasty uppercut. One thing I do like about Rob Font is that he controls the void. I got that term from Mighty Mouse. Shout out to Mighty Mouse. But he controls the center of the ring, and with him controlling the center of the ring, it leaves the other fighter kind of just like circling around him a little bit. I wouldn't necessarily say Rob Font moves forward, but he does establish his quote unquote real estate in the middle of the ring, so the fighter kind of has to fight around Rob Font. He keeps his hands up at all times. I do like that, so he's not just being caught off guard. And it also helps with that jab. If you always got your hands up, it's just quick to throw it out there. So he always keeps his hands up for blocking and also to throw out that Rob Font jab. One thing I will say is that Rob Font is a little heavy on that lead leg. I kind of don't like that, especially with a fighter like Martinez. I'll explain a little bit more. But he is a little bit heavy. Ooh, excuse me, my bad. But he is a little bit heavy on that lead leg as he's moving forward. And that leaves you open to getting your leg chopped down. And if you're putting all that pressure on that lead foot, that can cause some issues. Well, some of the things I did see from some of the Rob Font fights, he does get taken out a little bit easy, but he can, survive on the ground. But I don't like the fact that he can get taken down a little bit easy. I don't think he got to worry about that with Martinez, though. And then another thing, when he's in those exchanges with the fighter, he can get caught. Like Aldo caught him a couple times. Like I said, he went a hard 5 rounds with Jose Aldo, so that says something in itself. I think Aldo is one of the greatest of all time. But he got into those firefights with Aldo, and he will get caught. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes he's been on the receiving end of those, and sometimes he's been on the giving end of those. So it's a double-edged sword. But he can get hit a little bit, but it just depends on the flow of the fight. So hopefully he can get some more head movement in this fight. But I think he should be okay. Moving on to David Martinez, I think this is like his second UFC fight, I believe. I don't know. It's either his second or third UFC fight. I know he definitely has a knockout win, but I believe this is his second fight. As I said, he's stepping in. People keep saying he's stepping in on short notice, but he was already supposed to fight on this card. He was supposed to He was supposed to fight Quang Lee. But now Quang Lee is fighting Santiago Luna because Martinez moved up to fight in the co-main. So I do kind of like that. He's stepping up in a Mexican card. He's a Mexican himself, and he's stepping up to fight in the co-main. So I think I don't believe he would step into a co-main event if he didn't believe that he could win it. But to explain his fighting style, he's that bouncy, twitchy karate style. He's bouncing around. He's really high pace, high energy, and he's fast as shit. Like I said, he has that karate style, so he has that. I don't want to call it MVP because MVP is kind of like the master at this shit, but he darts in and darts out. He knows how to pick his shots. Like I said, he's bouncing around. He'll dart in, dart out, and he sets everything up with some fast leg kicks. Like, he's one of those fighters that uses his leg kicks as damn near like a jab, and that could be useful, but it also could be dangerous. As I said earlier in the video, if you're throwing a lot of leg kicks, that could leave you open to get taken down. But he's fast as hell. Like, he throws some things quick. He's very aggressive. Not very. He's aggressive. Like I said, he's bouncing around. He darts in and out, but he's not like charging forward. But he initiates the fight. I will give him that. He does initiate the fight. That could be a good thing or a bad thing. You're going against a vet like Rob Font, who's seen it all, has fought the best of the best. So if you charging in, bouncing in, doing all that karate shit, you could get caught, like I said, with one of those nasty ass overhands. If you throwing a kick, like I said, Rob Font's reach is there. So you throwing a kick and you know, throw a kick and you back a little bit like that. Rob Font throws one of these crazy ass long overhands like this, you might get your ass caught. One fight that I did see, it was on the Mexican regional scene. Martinez won the fight, but there was a point in time, I think it was like in the 4th round, where he did get taken down and he was controlled a little bit. So that's a little question mark that I do have for Martinez. Like I said, this is only his 2nd or 3rd UFC fight, so there's a lot to be seen. But from what I did see, he can get controlled a little bit on the ground. Like I said, he puts up a high pace, and for the most part, I think he has a pretty good gas tank. I believe this co-main is only 3 rounds, so I think it's okay for this fight. Like, he'll be able to keep his cardio intact. But in a 5-round fight, that shit starts to fade starting in the 3rd round. So depending on what type of fight Rob Font brings to Martinez, we could see Martinez possibly start to fade starting in the 3rd round. But I think in the 1st round and then up to at least the middle of the 2nd round, he's going to be that fast, twitchy, bouncing around shit. And this is just like a fun fact. I just think this makes him interesting. This man is also a doctor. He's a doctor by day and he's fucking Batman at night. So I think that's kind of interesting. So who I think is going to win this fight? So I've been kind of back and forth on this one. So on the Rob Font side, he's a UFC vet. He has fought the best of the best. He's seen it all. Like I said, he has that jab to kind of establish the distance, and he has the reach going for himself as well. So I don't know if Martinez will be able to necessarily measure out that distance. I think he can get Martinez on the ground if he does take it to the ground. And like I said, he puts together good combinations. So depending on what type of pressure Martinez is bringing to Rob Font, I think Rob Font could catch Martinez with those combos. And like I said, with that long reach, I don't know if it's necessarily going to be easy for Martinez to get on the inside. However, though, with Martinez, if I'm playing the fight out in my head, I could really see Martinez chopping down that leg of Rob Font. Like I said, he puts a lot of pressure on that lead leg, and we see Rob Font kind of get not necessarily hurt, but he got chopped down a little bit with that lead leg. So that's a little bit of a worry of mine with Rob Font when it comes to David Martinez. And Martinez is just a faster fighter. He's fast as shit. Like, he knows how to change levels. He's always moving up and down. Like I said, he kind of has that karate style where he's bouncing. And if I'm being completely honest, I don't know if Rob Font could really keep up with that. He's a tried and true vet, but he's coming up on 38, or I think he is 38 years old. And Martinez, he's just a younger man. I believe he's 26 or 27 years old. And I think he's in his prime. Rob Font, you know, he's on that back end of the career. I could easily be right. I keep saying this, and I'm so sorry. I'm just giving y'all my analysis of what I think of the fight. Whether I'm right or wrong, I don't want to say it doesn't matter, because I obviously want to be right. But if I'm wrong, man, it is what it is. Like, I'm just breaking it down from my perspective. Y'all can do y'all own research. The fights are on YouTube. It's on the internet. Y'all go look for yourselves. But this is what I'm getting from the fight. If you want me to pick a winner in this fight, it's really tough, but I believe with it being Noche UFC, he's a Mexican fighter. He's moving up to the co-main event. I don't think he's doing that if he think he was going to lose. I think David Martinez probably takes this fight by decision. I think he keeps Rob Font at range. Like I said, keeping that bouncing style. I think Rob Font is probably going to have some hard times tracking him down with that style as well. The path to victory for Rob Font, I believe, is utilizing his reach, and then if he can find a way to get this thing on the ground and kind of give him some vet lessons on the ground, I could see Rob Font winning in that way. But I personally believe David Martinez probably wins this fight by decision. All right, so now we get to the main event of the evening. It is a banger fight. I'm not gonna lie, y'all. Like I said earlier in the video, this card is kind of ass. This Noche UFC card is kind of ass. Compared to the one last year, this one is kind of ass. I'm not even going to front. But with a good main event, it kind of makes up for a lot. A good main event, co-main event, there's some decent fights throughout the card. It's an okay card. I'll give it probably like a 6 out of 10, 6.5 out of 10, to be truly honest. But this main event is a banger main event. When it first got announced, I was really excited. And I honestly did have a winner. But after looking at some tape, I don't know. I think I might have changed who I think is going to win this fight. So I'm going to say it off rip. Who I think is going to win this fight between Diego Lopez and Gene Silva, I personally think that Gene Silva is going to win this fight, y'all. And let me tell you why. So this would be the tallest fighter, or one of the taller fighters that Gene Silva has fought. He fought Bryce Mitchell, who was 5'10". I think Diego Lopez is around like 5'11", 5'10", 5'11". So this will be one of the taller fighters that Gene Silva has fought. But when it comes to Gene Silva, this man is a marksman. He's a marksman. He knows how to throw accurate shots. He's super accurate with his shots, and he knows how to fight off the back foot. If we know Diego Lopez, he thrives when he's charging forward and moving forward. But I've seen plenty of Gene Silva fights where he can connect with people as he's moving backwards by either throwing a check right or check left hook. He could throw it straight to kind of stun somebody and keep him at bay. He has really good distance management when it comes to fighting aggressive fighters, and he has insane power in his hands. There was a couple times when he fought in that Drew Dober fight. Drew Dober, he was moving forward on him and he had some success, but he caught him with a couple check hooks, a couple of them. And we seen how the way he ended up at the end of that fight. It had to be a doctor's stoppage because he got his right eye busted up because of the check left hook. Like I said, I like Gene Silva because he can move forward and be the aggressor, but he can also fight off of the back foot as well and be a counter puncher. I think he's pretty sound defensively when it comes to the takedowns and, just being a defensive fighter. He knows how, like as I just said, his distance management is pretty good. He knows how to defend the takedown. He does keep his hands up, so when somebody's throwing, he has his arms there to block it. And another thing I like about Silva as well, he knows how to work the clinch game. Like, he has some nasty clinch work. He's very strong. He's stocky as shit. He's built like a tank for the class. But one thing I do like about Silva in the clinch, he's always looking for the sub. If you clinch up or if you try to shoot a takedown on Gene Silva, we've seen it a million times with the Bryce Mitchell fight. He's going to try to throw in that guillotine. We've seen it in the Bryce Mitchell fight. Mitchell was going in for a takedown. He shot at Gene Silva against the cage. Gene Silva immediately went to the guillotine, and then he shot at him a little bit later into the fight as well, and he had him up against the cage, and Gene Silva was able to get a ninja choke off, and it ultimately ended up having Bryce Mitchell tap out. One thing I know it's showmanship, and I know it's like make for an entertaining fight and everything like that, but I think Gene Silva plays just a tad bit too much. He better not fuck around and play too much with Diego Lopez, because if he's doing all that pointing and trying to slap gloves and all this other bullshit, and Diego Lopez is in that mode, he might get his ass caught. So he need to stop playing around with that shit. It's kind of irritating It's irritating to watch from a breakdown point, but it's fun to watch when you're watching it in the moment. It makes for an entertaining fight, but looking at it from a breakdown perspective, it kind of got annoying a couple times. He kept slapping hands with Charles Jourdain and Drew Dober, and Bryce Mitchell wasn't going for that shit. When he kept trying to slap hands with him at the beginning of the rounds, Bryce Mitchell was like, fuck no, because he's trying to play the mind games. I feel like Diego Lopez is a nice guy. So if Gene Silva throws out his hands to go and dap up and, smiling at him and joking around, talking to him, I think Diego Lopez, he's gonna, it's gonna make Diego Lopez not as motivated to knock his ass out. And I think that's smart on Gene Silva's side. I just wish he would stop playing around a little bit and just get to the damn fight. On the Diego Lopez side, so as I said earlier, I'm picking Gene Silva, but I'm going to explain why I'm picking Gene Silva over Diego Lopez. So with Diego Lopez, he has fought the better competition. He fought Volk, he fought Brian Ortega, he fought Dan Ige, so on and so forth. But when it comes to Diego Lopez, he's a very fast striker. He's very powerful. He's a BJJ coach. So his BJJ is pretty good. Like I said, he's very strong, very fast. He got power in his hands, and he thrives in chaos. If you start getting into a firefight with Diego Lopez, that's where shit starts getting dangerous, because he keeps his punching real tight. He knows how to throw a hook, uppercut, all things like that. But I'm not gonna lie, y'all. Coming into this fight, when the fight first got announced, I instantly said Diego Lopez. He's the bigger fighter, he's faster, he's stronger, so on and so forth. But I'm not gonna lie, I watched some Diego Lopez fights. He's a tad bit overrated, y'all. Like, let's keep it a buck. He's a great fighter, do not get me wrong, but he's a little overrated. He could very well prove me wrong in this fight, and I kind of want him to. Because I'm a Diego Lopez fan. I'm a fan of both of these fighters, so I'm rooting for both of them to win. But from a breakdown standpoint, if you rewatch some of those fights, Diego Lopez, he's not the most technical fighter, but he does have time fighting technical fighters, if that makes sense. I'm not comparing Gene Silva to Volk in any way, shape, or form, but you could see in the Volk fight that when Lopez was trying to move forward on Volk's sound defense and him being able to strike from range, it gave Lopez some issues, and he got caught a couple times trying to get into that red zone, get inside that pocket. He wanted a firefight, but Volk, he's one of the GOATs, and he was able to catch it. He caught him a few times that made his ass back up. And one thing that I don't like, when he gets caught and he starts backing up, Diego Lopez turns into a completely different fighter. He's way more hesitant. He's not charging forward, and he's not that aggressive Diego Lopez that we see in the Brian Ortega fight. And speaking of the Brian Ortega fight, let's be real, y'all. After this past fight with Brian Ortega and Aljo, can we be real and say Brian Ortega is really not that good, y'all? Like, he had his run, he has his wins, but Brian Ortega is really not that good. And that fight went to a decision. He could have knocked his ass out when he slept him, and then he caught him with another punch that made him re-wake back up. But I think that was a fight where Diego Lopez should have got Brian Ortega out of there. I'm not going to lie. And then with the Dan Ige fight, yeah, Dan Ige, he's kind of like the gatekeeper of the featherweight division. But let's be real. He fought on hours' notice at catchweight, and he was able to take Diego Lopez to a decision. Keep in mind, this is the same man that just lost to Patricio Pitbull, old-ass Patricio Pitbull. I do not like that. I don't like that at all. Lopez did display some good BJJ in that fight, but when it comes to the stand-up, it seemed like he had a hard time finding Ige, and Ige is a powerful striker, do not get me wrong, but I just don't like the fact that it was kind of that fight went to a decision on this man literally flying in on like a 2 hours notice, I'm not going to lie. Lopez doesn't really necessarily have the best head movement either. Like, he'll throw, but he's not moving his head as he's throwing. So he's getting tagged a couple times. Like, that Volk fight, I really want people to rewatch that Volk fight and look at it from a different lens. Because Volk, they would get into that firefight and Volk would just check him. He'll throw a check hook, he'll throw a straight or whatever, and Diego's head is straight down the middle. And where Lopez thrives is when he's moving forward and being the aggressor in the fight. I think once he feels the power of Gene Silva on a check hook or on a straight or something like that, I think we're going to see Diego Lopez kind of do the same thing that he did in the Volk fight, where he's kind of going to be a little bit more hesitant to charge in. Like, that's his path. That's one of his pathways to victories. Now, one thing I will say, if Lopez finds a way to get this thing on the ground, then we talking. I think that's probably his path to victory when it comes to this fight. He needs to get this thing onto the ground and use that BJJ that he coaches up and that he trains with on a daily to submit Gene Silva. He is the bigger fighter, so he's going to have the longer limbs to put him in a submission. But I personally think that this fight is going to stay on the feet. Gene Silva is pretty good at, his takedown defense and keeping it on the feet. It hasn't really been tested like that, but you've seen flashes of it being pretty good. So we'll see how that fares. But in my personal opinion, I think Lopez's path to victory is getting it to the ground. And if he doesn't get it to the ground and keeps it onto the feet, I think Gene Silva could possibly knock him out at one of those fire exchanges where they're just both throwing. Excuse me, damn, that's the second time this video, my bad, y'all. One thing I'll say about Gene Silva, when he is in those firefights trading with another fighter, he knows how to get in and get out. He knows when to get in and get out. He's very accurate when he's in those firefights as well. So I think, like I said, I think Gene Silva redeems the fighting nerds and he gets a W in the win column. We seen Rufi just exposed by BSD, Benoit Saint-Denis. We seen Kyle Barajo, he just took that loss to Imavov. And it was a good fight by both Barajo and Imavov. I don't think Barajo looked that bad, but that's two back-to-back losses from the fighting nerds. You got Carlos Prates, who took that loss to Ian Gary, so he's still got a couple more fights to prove himself as one of those top guys in the division. But I think Gene Silva is going to redeem the fighting nerds, who's kind of been on like on the downward streak as a fight group. I think he's gonna redeem the fighting nerds in Noche UFC. And my personal opinion, so my favorite fighting nerd is Carlos Prates. I love Carlos Prates. Smoking the cigarette, drinking the alcohol, he's gonna party, and he's a hell of a fighter. He's entertaining. He got knockout power, spinning elbow to damn what's his name, to damn Jeff Neal and everything. So I think Prates is my favorite fighting nerd, but I think Gene Silva might be the best fighting nerd out of that group. And I think he takes this thing back with a W, bringing it back to the fighting nerds, getting them back into that win column. Another thing that pisses me off about Lopez, I forgot to say this. Another thing that kind of irritates me with Lopez, he does this neck shit. He grabs at his neck. I think I heard in one of the fights that it was like a childhood accident. So now it's kind of just like a tick that he does when he gets nervous. But if you're doing this with a fighter like Gene Silva, if you are like this, Gene Silva could catch your ass with a fucking hook or a straight if you keep doing this shit. He kept getting caught a couple of times in the Volkanovski fight, grabbing at his neck, doing the nervous tick thing, and Volk was able to find openings and catch him a couple of times. So that's a little irritating to look at. I think he needs to get that shit. I don't know what you even do about that, but that I don't like that at all. Especially for a fighter as dangerous as Gene Silva, he can't be grabbing at his neck in the middle of a 5-round fight. Another thing I will say as well, I think if this was a 3-round fight, I could lean a little bit more towards Diego Lopez because of the aggressive style and him moving forward. But because it is 5 rounds, I think Gene Silva is going to be able to manage the distance. He's going to tag Lopez with a couple of punches. Lopez is going to field those punches, and he's going to kind of be a little bit more hesitant to dart in. And I don't think that fares well over a 5-round fight. We've seen it with Volkanovski. So unless Diego Lopez comes out like the Diego Lopez we know, super aggressive, charging forward and throwing them bitches, I think Gene Silva probably is either going to knock him out or he could take it by decision. But that's it, y'all. That's my breakdown of Noche UFC. I'm sorry this was a little weird video. It was a little sped up. I'm not going to lie. I wanted to get this out to y'all by today before the fight on Saturday so people can get a chance to take a view and take a look and everything like that. But this is what I just gathered from watching the film from all these different fights. So it's a lot of 50-50 fights on the main card, like, well, from the featured prelim up. I don't know anything about the featured fight. Like I said, I'm gonna be learning about those two when I do watch it. So I apologize for not getting that fight in, but the UFC website kind of threw me off, and I thought the Hernandez and Ferreira fight was on the main card, so my bad on that. But that's going to do it for this breakdown. Noche UFC, I'm really excited for this card. I'm really excited for this main event. Like I said, I think Silva is going to win this fight, but I'm not going to be mad or surprised at all if Lopez does win this fight. I'm rooting for both. I just want to see a good fight and honestly get some more information about both of the fighters and see how they do in this main event spot. So that's going to do it, you guys. Make sure that you guys please follow me on Instagram at ElijahJamesTV. It's also the same on Facebook. My TikTok is easy_1K, where I'll be posting some of the clips that I'll be posting on Instagram as well. Make sure that y'all subscribe to the channel. Make sure that y'all like. Make sure that y'all comment. Make sure that y'all share this thing. Trying to grow. We got some big things coming up. You know, we in the middle of we got some big things coming up. NFL season just started. So I'm gonna be bringing my weekly breakdowns on that. Y'all follow my Instagram to vote on what teams y'all want me to break down in the NFL. We're gonna be covering some more of these UFC fights. If you don't know, let me say this now while I'm ending the video. So when it comes to the UFC breakdowns, I'm not necessarily doing the fight nights unless it has heavy implications on a possible title shot. Like, I really wanted to do a breakdown on the Imava Barajo fight. I just couldn't get the time, unfortunately. But from my channel, it's gonna be mainly the UFC 320s, the big cards, the UFC Noches and things of that sort. So that's gonna do it for today's breakdown, y'all. Like I said, subscribe, like, comment, all that good stuff. Please make sure that y'all keep up with my socials as well. I'll see y'all for the next breakdown, next UFC breakdown. Like I said, I got some football breakdowns on my channel. This week we got Eagles versus Chiefs, so make sure y'all stay tuned in for that. And we're gonna see how this fight turns out on Saturday. It's really an eventful Saturday with college football. You got the Canelo versus Crawford fight, and then you got Noche UFC. So we're gonna see. It's gonna be a really fun weekend. But that's gonna do it for me, y'all. I thank y'all for tuning in, and I'm gonna catch y'all. Peace.